Good morning, class. So we are picking up a new read aloud, and we're going to be reading The Call of the Wild. Okay, so this is a book by the author's name is Jack London, and it's a book about a dog and the adventures that he takes in the early 1900s. So I'm going to read the back cover for you to give a bit of a description. The Call of the Wild is the story of a dog whose life is changed forever. Kidnapped from his sunny California home, Buck is taken to the cold, hard world of the Klondike. Buck is hitched into the traces of a dog sled, but the traces cannot hold his spirit, his will, or his true nature to be wild, to be free. Okay, so we're going to see the adventures that Buck goes on as he answers the call of the wild. And I hope you enjoy. So, chapter 1 is A Kidnapped King. Buck did not read the newspapers, or he would have known that trouble was ahead. Trouble not just for him, but for every strong dog with warm, long hair along the western coastline. Men had found gold in the Arctic, and these men wanted dogs. The dogs they wanted were heavy dogs with strong muscles to pull dog sleds with furry coats to protect them from the frost. Buck lived at a big house in the sunny Santa Clara Valley. Judge Miller's place, it was called. It was a large, beautiful home with wraparound porches and a long driveway. The estate had wide lawns with great stables, grape arbors, green pastures, orchards, and berry patches. Then there was the big cement tank where Judge Miller's boys took their morning swim and kept cool in the hot afternoon. Buck ruled over this great estate. Here he was born, and here he had lived the 4 years of his life. There were other dogs, but they did not count. The house dogs and the kennel dogs came and went, but Buck was neither house dog nor kennel dog. The whole place was his. He jumped into the swimming tank and went hunting with the judge's sons. He went with Molly and Alice, the judge's daughters, on long walks. On wintry nights, he lay at the judge's feet before the roaring library fire. He carried the judge's grandsons on his back or rolled them in the grass and played with them in the orchards. Buck was king over all the other dogs and every person at the Miller estate. His father, Elmo, had been a huge St. Bernard and the judge's favorite. Buck was not so large. He weighed only 140 pounds, for his mother, Shep, had been a Scotch shepherd dog. Nevertheless, he carried himself much like a much larger dog, like the king he was, with great pride. And this was the life Buck led in the fall of 1897, when the Klondike gold dragged men from all over the world into the frozen north. But Buck did not read the newspapers. He did not know that men's hearts could be turned with greed. Manuel, one of the gardener's helpers, was such a man whose heart had turned, and his greedy eyes had fallen on Buck, the perfect sled dog. The judge was at a meeting, and the boys were at a club on the sad night of Manuel's crime. No one saw him take Buck and lead him through the orchard for an evening stroll, and only one man saw them arrive at the little train station known as College Park. This one man talked with Manuel and handed him money. "Are we going to tie him up?" the stranger asked gruffly. Manuel doubled a piece of stout rope around Buck's neck under the collar. "Twist it and you'll choke him plenty," said Manuel. Buck did not resist the rope. He had learned to trust men he knew. But when the ends of the rope were placed in the stranger's hands, he growled to make the man let go. To his surprise, the rope tightened round his neck, shutting off his breath. In a quick rage, he sprang at the man, but the man was ready. He threw Buck onto his back and tightened the rope more. Never in all his life had Buck been so cruelly treated, and never in all his life had he been so angry. But his strength left him, his eyes closed, and he fainted from the rope and the pain. He was not even aware when the train came, and the two men threw him into the baggage car. The next thing he knew, he was being jolted along into something moving, and his tongue was hurting. The shriek of a train whistle told him where he was. He was kidnapped. He was a kidnapped king, now full of anger. He opened his eyes and saw a man in the baggage car. The man's hand sprang to pull the rope, but Buck was too quick for him. His jaws closed on the hand, and he held on even as he was choked once again. Later, in a small saloon, the man complained of his night's ride. "All I get is $50 for this here dog," he grumbled, "and I wouldn't do it over $1,000. He held Buck firmly by the rope. The man's hand was wrapped up, and his pants were ripped from knee to ankle. "How much did the other guy get?" the saloon keeper asked. "100. Wouldn't take a penny less." "That makes 150, the saloon keeper said, "and he's worth it, or I don't know dogs. Here, lend me a hand with this brass collar he's wearing." Dazed and in pain, Buck once more was thrown down and choked. The two men held him down as they filed his heavy brass collar from off his neck. Then the rope was removed, and he was flung into a cage-like crate. Without his collar, no one would ever know that he was the king of Judge Miller's estate. There he lay for the rest of the night. He could not understand what it all meant. What did they want with him, these strange men? Why were they keeping him in this narrow crate? Several times during the night he sprang to his feet when the shed door rattled open, expecting to see the judge, or the boys at least. But each time it was the ugly face of the saloon keeper that looked in on him, and each time his hope turned into a savage growl. In the morning, 4 men entered and picked up the crate. Evil-looking men. Buck stormed and raged at them through the bars. They only laughed and poked sticks at him as the crate was lifted into the wagon. Then Buck began a long journey, on a wagon, a truck, a ferry steamer, and finally on yet another train, passing through many hands to a place he knew not where. And that's chapter 1.